You're listening to Bad Dog Agility, bringing you training tips, interviews, and news about the great sport of dog agility.
This podcast was taken from a live video presentation that we did called Moving Towards Mastery, part of a workshop series called Your Journey Towards Agility Mastery. The majority of this video did not have visuals other than our faces on the screen as we were presenting. There are a few spots where we inserted some training video, and that will be something that is more difficult to understand through the podcast. But if you go to the show notes for this episode 259, I will have a link to a front cross demonstration video that includes the majority of what was shared in that live presentation. Today's podcast is brought to you by hititboard.com. Hititboard.com has the innovative training tools you need for agility. Having problems with the dog walker A-frame? The Hititboard can fix that. Your dog doesn't like tugging? They'll love the Tug It. Can't move your A-frame around by yourself? The Move It can. Go to hititboard.com and use discount code BDA10 to get 10% off your order. That's hititboard.com. All right, we have lots of confirmation here that sound and video is working. So I think we are good to get started here. Right on time.
Yeah, you want to go ahead and get started?
Sure. Let's go ahead. Let's get started. Let's go. Let's do it.
All right, we're going to go ahead and get started then. Welcome everyone to the second video in our 4-part workshop called Your Journey Toward Agility Mastery. Whether you're brand new to the sport or a longtime competitor, you are definitely in the right place to learn how you can reach your own personal goals in dog agility. I'm Esteban, and I'm 1/3 of the Bad Dog Agility team. Sitting next to me is Sarah Fernandez-Lopez.
Hello.
And joining us from Ohio is the reigning overall Westminster champion, Jennifer Crank.
Hi, everyone.
Now, we are the voices you hear on the podcast. We're also instructors at the Bad Dog Agility Academy, where we teach online. As I said, this workshop has 4 videos. And overall, we're teaching you how to go from incompetence to mastery in your agility handling. Now, before we go any further, I'm going to turn it over to Sarah.
All right. We've got lots of comments. Everybody can see and hear us. And we want to help as many people as possible with this workshop series, and we need your help. So we have a toy prize package. I have to find my camera here. It's backwards, so every time I move the wrong way. We're giving away a Squiggle It and a Tug It 2 toy, so a toy package here for anybody who shares this on Facebook. So take a moment, share this presentation so that people can join us in live, and then come back and comment and say that you shared. And then about 10 minutes after this broadcast, we will pull the winner and message just the winner. Mm-hmm. So share, make sure it's public, come back and comment, shared, and we will get going here.
Mm-hmm. Sarah's already notified the winner of this drawing from the first video.
Yep, so theirs is already on the way.
Winner's already been notified. And I just wanted to say, I mentioned this in the last one as well, that our poodle, who's very picky about the toys that she plays with, really loves the Squiggle It.
She does.
Loves it very much. All right, very cool. And the feedback from all of you has been really, really great. And thank you so much for all the comments, the emails that you've sent, and the sharing that you guys have been doing. Now, if you missed the first video, that's okay. Don't panic. You should check it out when you get the chance, because what we did was we took the 4 stages of competence and we applied it to dog agility in a very, very specific way. And we showed people how to figure out what stage you're in for any given skill. And we explained how trainers often get stuck in the 3rd stage, where they know how to do something, for example, like a front cross, but they can't do it very well yet, or they have to expend a lot of mental energy. They got to think really hard while they're doing it in order to get it right. It's not fluent. Today, we're going to get you unstuck, and we're going to move you along, and we're going to show you how to move toward mastery of really any handling skill. So if you haven't seen the first video, again, that's okay. Today's training will still make sense.
That's right. So how do we move from stage to stage, or just how do we get better at this sport of dog agility? And we're going to walk you through 2 steps. So just 2 steps that will put you on the path to mastery. Step one is understanding the concept. So whatever it is, we're going to talk about front crosses today, but whatever skill you are working on, you need the knowledge of that skill. You need to understand the concept. So like when we talk about a front cross, I think about how do beginners think of a front cross? And I'm pretty good at remembering my beginner self. I haven't glossed over all of the kind of funny I didn't know what I was doing stories. I've still got those in the back of my brain. And I remember just thinking of a front cross as just crossing in front of the dog, anywhere between two jumps. Mm-hmm. And there is so much more to the front cross. And that's what I learned over time as I got further into the sport. So there's timing, there's position, there's footwork. There's way more than what I understood a front cross to be when I first started in the sport.
Yeah, I think when we first started, there was just that dichotomy. It was front cross or rear cross. One you do in front of the dog. And then if you're not in front of the dog, then you have to do the other one, right? You're behind the dog. So then you rear cross, and that's what everybody knew about those two things. But for any given handling skill, you need to know a little bit more than that. And I think of the way that everyone was taught how to write papers, maybe in grade school or high school, the W's.
Oh yeah, who, when, where, why, exactly. And how.
Like we're journalistic reporters. And you need to know what maneuver you're using. You need to know why you're using this one instead of a different one. You need to know where on course you're using it. And when, I think is a big one, right? The timing of the cue. When are you going to use this? And how you should be moving your body, your feet, your arms, head position, eye contact. These are all part of the cue, part of the maneuver. And so you need to be able to answer all of those questions. Jen, what are some other things that handlers need to know specifically about the front cross?
All of those things, I think, are super important. You have to know them. They're part of the knowledge. But also adding to that, it's important to know when not to use it, right? Not to state the obvious, but you need to be ahead of the dog, right? It is called a front cross. So you must be in front of the dog. You are, with the front cross, cueing a turn, right? So you want to do it when there's a curve, when there's a bend in the dog's path. I don't advise doing a front cross on a straight line. So if the dog's path is not changing, if they are going to stay on a straight line, not going to be a great place to do a front cross. You want to keep in mind that you will be maintaining eye contact with the dog, right? So as you do a front cross and you rotate towards your dog, you will keep that connection. You will maintain eye contact with the dog, as opposed to the blind cross where you're going to take your eyes off of the dog. We have two crosses when we're out ahead. So I said, front cross, you got to be out ahead of your dog. Well, not every cross that you do out ahead of your dog is going to be a front cross, right? So the front cross, you rotate your shoulders towards the dog, right? So you're going to have that rotation that kind of goes along with the keeping eye contact, maintaining eye contact. Shoulder rotation is going to go towards the dog. But what that also means is you're going to lose sight of the course. Right. So you're going to momentarily be turning your back on the course. You're going to lose sight of the obstacles. Something to take into account for those of you that may have some spatial awareness issues. Right. So if you're one to really want to make sure you keep your eye on the course, something to take into account when considering that front cross.
Yeah, exactly. And we've got a comment here that this one right here.
From Christine. Yeah, I like that. Let's put that one up there. And Christine says, she remembers she couldn't do jumpers with weaves when she first started with her agility dog almost 20 years ago. And that's a common story that a lot of you are going to have as you are coming into the sport now. I see Angela says she's very excited about starting her agility journey this week. So why does that happen? Well, because in standard, you have all the contact obstacles, right? And most people have stop contact. So you can take a little break, kind of catch up with your handling, think about the next part of the course. But jumpers is just go, go, go. It's one handling maneuver after another. And when you're doing these front crosses and you do 3 or 4 of them on one course, you're taking your eye off the course multiple times. And so you tend to get lost, right? So jumpers, like if you're struggling with the handling and doing maneuvers and blinds and rears and fronts and you don't know exactly what you're doing, you're going to get less cues, less qualifications in jumpers.
Right. So, and those standard obstacles, those big contact obstacles also have like a visual effect. Right. It's you don't get lost as easy, right? Because everything it looks different, right? When it's jumpers, every jump looks the same, Yeah. So it can be a lot more difficult. And one of the reasons why this knowledge is so important is because it lets you apply what you've learned. So, as instructors, we know that there's times where we have people in class and they can do the front cross, but they don't have all of the knowledge. And so then when we aren't there saying, here's where we're going to put our front cross, and they're out at a trial, they may struggle a little bit more. So that's why this knowledge piece is really important. So we're going to get into the details specifically of the front cross and the knowledge of the front cross here. And I'm going to start with 3 tips for the front cross. And these 3 tips cover what I think I see a lot of the mistakes being made. These 3 things would fix it. So it's not all of the front cross, but these are 3 really good tips to really take your front cross to the next level. So we're going to look at the front cross line. So I'm going to pull up a video here real quick. Give me just a second. And we're going to look at the front cross line.
Back to the jumpers and standard thing. When I started agility, there was no jumpers with weaves.
Oh my goodness.
You just had standard. That's all you had.
Wow.
One run a day.
That's right. You were right there from the very start.
Yeah.
I think they had been doing agility for a year or 2 before we started, like before Sarah was actually at her first trial. And I didn't start in my first trial until a year or 2 after Sarah had started, actually. And my very first run in all of agility was actually at the open level, the intermediate level in AKC, when Sarah let me run the Rottweiler. So my first run was not in novice; it was an open.
All right, there you go. Trivia.
Little bit of trivia for you.
There we go. All right, we're going to play this video real quick. So the first thing that we're going to talk about is the front cross line. So if I have my dog going into this tunnel, over this jump, and I want to do a front cross between this blue and green jump and this black and white jump to get my dog on the other side, I can use the idea of a front cross line to help me create the best path for my dog with minimal running on my part. So the front cross line is the line from this wing, the start of the front cross, to this wing, the end of the front cross. So this line right here. And that's my target line for my front cross. So when I do a front cross, I want to be right on this line. And that's going to create the tightest path for my dog rather than coming out here and then turning. I give my dog a lot more space and I have to run further myself. So that's our first tip for a perfect front cross. So let's draw in our front cross line from this wing to this wing and see how we do. We can see here I'm starting the front cross on the line. And for the entire front cross, I am running right along that line, creating this nice path for my dog. Using this view from above, we can draw in our front cross line from this wing to this wing. And as we scroll forward, we'll see that I complete my front cross right on that front cross line. All right, so there we have the front cross line, the first tip. And like I said in the video, I think the mistake that I see a lot of people making is going really deep in on their front crosses. And this kind of answers the question for people who may be more new to the sport. You know, I'm doing a front cross between these 2 jumps, but where exactly? Well, you just visualize this line, and that's exactly the line that you want to be on. It gives you a very specific path for yourself that you can kind of replicate every time you go out and you walk the course.
Yeah, I think you can't always run the perfect line, but it really, really helps out when you overrun the line. I call it overrunning the line when I give people feedback on their videos, and you give the dog all that space that Sarah was talking about. The dogs take it. Right? You're moving backwards. They think all that space is theirs to take, and they're going to put a wide turn in there very often.
I love that aerial view that you showed right there at the end, because, you know, for my brain, we all kind of think of things and learn things differently. And when I'm visualizing my handling or thinking about the course or a lot of my skills, that's how I think about it. It's kind of from above looking down. So that last image of that line and kind of seeing that demo, I think is so important for, you know, depending on how people learn. Really helpful.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Yeah. And it's actually, it helped me to see it because I don't look at myself from above, right? Like
Right.
I've taught this front cross line for a long time, but then I put a drone on top and I'm like, hey, look, I am doing it. Yay. It's like proof. All right. So that was the front cross line. The next tip that we have, probably my favorite thing about the front cross, the thing that I am going to look at when I'm looking at people's videos is the 4 steps, the footwork.
Mm-hmm. And right before we show you that, I'm going to put this comment up here. It's such a good one. And this is a comment that I think everybody has had at one point or another in agility. And Melissa asked, will I ever have the presence of mind to remember all of this on a course? Well, this is why you're here at this workshop. So as Joyce has reassured you, yes, you will at some point have the presence of mind to remember all of this. And we're showing you exactly how to do that. And
if you haven't had a chance to watch the first video, definitely watch that, because part of what we're talking about here is you when you're learning a skill, you learn it to the point where you can do it, but it takes a lot of conscious effort. And that's what it sounds like you're in. You're in this really conscious effort phase of learning. And you need to move past that conscious effort so that it becomes second nature. It becomes subconscious. So you can really just get out there and do it. Yeah, I was going to look at that one too. Joanne says, how do you determine where the front cross line is? So you look at the dog's path. And you want the wing that the dog is where he's turning towards you after he takes the jump and he's turning towards you. So that's the wing of the beginning of the line. And the wing that you want him closest to, based on what's coming next, is the end of the line. So that's why on that video, it was my right hand, the wing that I could touch with my right hand when my dog was on my right, and the wing that I could touch with my left hand when my dog was on my left.
Mm-hmm. Maybe we'll see it on this next demonstration video.
Yeah. All right. So here we have, somebody said it's easier to stick to the line if you take the minimum number of steps. Perfect segue. This is exactly what we're going to talk next, is the 4-step front cross. So here we go. I've got the right video. Yes. I'm going to mute us. All right. So our second tip for a perfect front cross is to have perfect footwork. So when we do a front cross, we take 4 steps. The first step is our plant step and our pivot step. It's always going to be the leg nearest the dog, and it's going to be the leg where we start to pivot into the dog. Then we have 2, 3, and on the 4th, we want to be committed to the new direction. So this step is in the new direction. By keeping our front cross to this exact footwork, we are being efficient with our movement, and we aren't doing any backward steps or anything like that. So we're just going to do 1, 2, 3, 4. No matter where we're going, we're going to take those same 4 steps. All right, let's take a look at this perfect front cross footwork. As we come towards the jump here, we're going to see step 1 with the right foot right here. This is our plant step and the foot that I'm going to pivot on as I turn towards my dog. Step 2, right here. Coming around, step 3, here. And now with step 4, I'm powering into the new direction, here. So there's our 4-step front cross. All right, so here we can see the line again. You can see that my footsteps are right on this line. So it was this inside wing to the new inside wing. Now that my dog is on my left, this is the new inside wing. Oh, I should be actually, sorry, I was using my mouse on the wrong screen. So I went from this wing to this wing here, and that created this front cross line. So footwork, so important. Anybody who has worked with me as a coach knows that every front cross you do, I'm counting out your steps, to either say 4 steps, perfect, great job, or to say we got a couple of extra steps in here that we want to try to get out of this front cross. But I'm counting them for every front cross I see.
Yeah, I think the 4-step footwork is really, really important. I think not every handler does a very good job with this, even some high-level people. And the magic of it, the real power is that fourth step, I like to call it the power step. It sets the line because when you're taking that fourth step, you're moving in the new direction that you want your dog to go. Those first 3 steps, you're not facing the way you want the dog to go. You're not moving yet in the direction that you want the dog to go. It's that fourth step that really sets the line. And this can save a lot of late front crosses. So there are going to be times where you plan to do a front cross and you're just late. You know, you're a little further behind than you thought you'd be on the walkthrough, or your dog was running a little bit faster. They're ahead of you now, and you know you're going to do a late front cross. If you get the footwork correct, sometimes a lot of times you can save that wide turn because you're still able to set that line. It's so predictable to the dog, the direction that they need to be going. And so they're able to dig in, collect, and get you a really good turn on that front cross, even when the timing is not perfect.
Yeah, and here we have a comment. Somebody says they rarely use front crosses because of their arthritic knees. And we're going to talk a little bit about that later. But absolutely, you may choose other handling maneuvers for that reason. But the overall concept is whatever you are using, you need to know the who, what, when, where, and why, and how of that maneuver. You still need to have that knowledge and know all the details and whatever footwork and whatever execution tips there are for that maneuver.
Mm-hmm. Great point, Carol. I'll also say that I'm a physician and also a former athlete. And so I've had patellofemoral syndrome in both of my knees at one point or another, starting from a very young age, like I think in my late teens. So off and on knee problems, a history of years and years of playing basketball. So there have been times where I've not been able to comfortably do the front cross when I've had flare-ups in my knees. And so I have to adjust my handling. So thank you for mentioning that.
All right, here we have the third tip here, and this is going to be about covering ground with your front cross. Our third tip is to use those 4 steps to move across your front cross line and to cover yardage. So in the first tip, we established that line. In the second tip, we talked about the perfect footwork. Now we want to use that perfect footwork to move through here. So as I'm coming through, I can take big steps with my 4 steps and cover a lot of ground. And that's going to put me further ahead on course. Of course, it depends how much distance is between these jumps. But if I come in and do a front cross here and I do it all in place, that's a lot of wasted time where my dog is catching up and I'm not moving forward. But I can use these 4 steps to move across that line. And I start back there, I end up here, and I'm further ahead of my dog. Let's take a look at the distance traveled. We can see here's this first step of the front cross. 2, 3, last step of the front cross. And you can see that we've covered more than half the distance between these 2 jumps just with our front cross. Let's go back to our view from above and look for the point where we start the front cross right here and finish the front cross right here. And you can see how much distance I've been able to travel with those 4 steps. And so here, you just cannot give up all of that yardage that you could cover with the front cross by doing it in one place. And so this is a problem that I often see, is that people, they come in, their timing is great. They're doing 4 steps. They start the front cross at just the right time. They're in the right position, but then they stay just in one little spot and do it. And in the time that they do that front cross, the dog catches up, blows past them, and maybe goes off course on the next thing. So we cannot give up that time. The majority of your dogs are faster than you are. So you cannot give up that advantage on your dog by staying in one place for such a long period of time.
Yeah, there's a lot of components to a front cross, right? But this is one that I find myself talking to my students a lot about. I have the term a Fred Flintstone front cross, right? And a Fred Flintstone front cross is when you do twinkle toes all in one spot. So you run to the point of the front cross, your feet are moving, and they're lifting up and down, but they're staying in the same place. And if you've watched the Flintstones, this is how Fred does his bowling. Instead of grabbing the ball and moving down the lane, he runs up and just jumps up and down in place. So as you just said, Sarah, we cannot afford to give our dogs all this time to catch up to us or even pass us, right? You know, we are ahead for the front cross. We want to stay ahead for the front cross. So we want to lengthen those steps. We want to drag them out. We want to cover ground. Where we started the front cross should be further down, or I'm sorry, where we finished the front cross should be further downstream than where we started. So if where you're starting and where you're finishing are at the same spot, you know, you're giving up too much ground on your dog.
Yeah. And you know, if you didn't do any of these things, right? If you were not on the line, your footwork was bad, you know, you had 6-step front cross and you did it all in one place, you would still be doing a front cross, right? And you might still be getting through the course. And so this is where a beginning person may think that they know what a front cross is, but they don't have all this additional knowledge of how to make that front cross more efficient and work better for them and prevent some of the mistakes that might be happening later that they haven't even connected to the front cross. Somebody said here, there were a couple of really good comments. Which one were you looking at? There's one. So this person says, I seldom use front crosses because my dog was faster than I am. And one thing that I've often said about front crosses is the better I understood the front cross, the less I used it. Not because it's not great. I still use it, but I understand that I only want to do a front cross if I want to do it well. If I can't get to the right spot, the right position, the right time, I'm not going to force it in there because a bad front cross is way worse than, let's say, a really good rear cross, right? So we want all of our handling to be really good.
Yeah, I've got a great story for you about that. So I was running the Rottweiler. You know, it was my first seriously competitive dog. I had a couple of dogs that we were running at the time, a Golden and a Rottweiler. But it was the Rottweiler who made the top 5 and got to go to the AKC Invitational in Orlando. And at that time, it was a big deal because Animal Planet was covering it. Mm-hmm. So the third year she qualified and we went, that was the year that I made finals. They interview you on Animal Planet. They show your face during your run and all this stuff. It was great. And, you know, she finished third. It was fantastic. She almost won. But the first two years. And the first time that I ever went and showed up, you know, we had a great round 1. We won the 24-inch class for that round. I thought, okay, this we're doing it now. We're going to win all these rounds and win the final, and it's going to be awesome. And the second round, we went off course. Front cross. I got there late, just drove her straight off course. Round 3, straight off course on a front cross. Round 4, guess what? Front cross, late front cross, off course. That was our only clean run out of the 4 rounds, the very first one that we won. And so I had to go back and spend a year thinking about this, thinking about how badly I had failed there in that spot, because I was the kind of guy who was using my athleticism to make up for a lot of my lack of knowledge in dog training and ability to execute rear crosses. I had other weaknesses, and you know, I just tried to run around and get everywhere. And part of the learning is exactly what Sarah said. I had to learn, and Jen made this great point too. You had to learn when not to front cross. Mm-hmm. And once I was able to do that, and the answer, someone else I think was answering someone else's question, is to rear cross, right? If you can't get this front cross, you need to rear cross.
Here's the answer,
right?
Rear cross.
And right there with the answer, right? So you're hearing from competitors who have been through that process, right? But this is a process that we had to go through when I was first starting out in agility. But that was like year 6 or year 7. I'd already been doing agility 5 or 6 years at that point. And, you know, had to learn a very hard lesson at a really big event. One other comment I wanted to make. If you scroll up, Holly mentioned that right there. Click on that one. Holly. Okay. So Holly says, practicing this dance and 2 dogs are following me. And I love that because she called it a dance, right? So the footwork is important. It's a little bit like dancing. And I was a spectator. We didn't make finals this year, this year that I'm thinking of when we were at Westminster. So we're in New York City and I'm watching Jen. And this is in the middle of Jen's run of 3 straight wins at the 16-inch high class. And I was sitting next to a spectator who's not an agility competitor. And she said, when Jen ran, that it was so beautiful. It was like watching someone do a dance. She was like, Jennifer was dancing out there. Right. And so I saw Holly comment here on the dancing, and you know, that's what it's like. So I think a lot of people don't realize the importance of footwork.
Yep.
And front crosses.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about that dance and that feeling in video one at that final stage, right?
Yeah.
That unconscious competence. And we actually talked a little bit about Westminster, and it gets to that feeling where you're just out there and you're moving through and connecting with the dog for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So now we've given you that first step, right? It's a two-step process. The first step is get the knowledge, right? And so we've shared some of that knowledge about the front cross with you. Now you've got to get to the second step, right? Without the second step, it's not going to work. And the second step, we need to take that knowledge and we need to put it into practice. So I'm talking about execution. Now here we're talking about the handler and not the dog.
That's right. You got to get out on the field, right? So knowledge is all about knowing it in your head. And now you've got to know it in your feet. And those are very different places and can be very difficult for some people. You can know it all day long and you can know that you're supposed to turn into your dog for a front cross. And then when you get on the field, you turn away anyway, because for some reason that felt more natural in that moment. So we've got to get that physical practice. And here, we have so many smart people in the comments because multiple people have said this. You don't need the dog at this point. There is a lot of physical learning that you can do without the dog, because here's the thing. If you cannot do a 4-step front cross without your dog in the middle of nothing, you are definitely not going to be able to do it when you add your dog to the mix, right? So it pays to spend a little time. And we're especially talking when you are learning a new skill or adjusting how you're doing something physically. Take some time to make sure you can do it and then add your dog into that mix.
Right. A big part of the execution element is the muscle memory, right? You know it, you learn it in your head. Now you got to go out and execute it. You've got to train your body. You've got to build that muscle memory to exactly how that skill is supposed to happen. And whether you all know it or not, you've done this without your dog. You've done this in your walkthrough, whether it's walking a sequence, whether it's walking a course. I think, kind of a little tip here is that a lot of people walk the course and they're just thinking about where the obstacles are going. Where's obstacle 3? Where's 4? Where's 5? They're memorizing. And that's very important as well. But then use that time to practice your execution. Walk through it, not just going, oh, here's obstacle 5, here's obstacle 6. I think I'll do a front cross, but walk through the footwork. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yes, I'm going to do that front cross, getting that muscle memory. And I think another part, talking about the walkthroughs and kind of the benefits of the walkthrough is, yeah, we call it a walk through, but we know that when we get out there, we run. So I think a missed step on this for a lot of people is they walk and they practice at a slower speed. And then when they get out there and it goes really fast, their timing's off, their muscle memory's off. They've practiced it with a different timing than what they're going to have. Going back to that dance analogy, you wouldn't learn a dance to counts. You're ready, 5, 6, 7, 8, and never perform it to the music for the first time. You would learn it slow, you would practice it at speed, and then you would be ready to perform. And we'll see people out there in a walkthrough who will run the course, right? They'll run through the course to really get that timing. And so I think, practicing without the dog, we've all done it, but maybe we need to do it more, right? So wherever you are right now, everybody right now, wherever you are, Holly already said she was doing it right now. I want practice your front cross. Stand up, right? I know Esteban's done it in the office, right? He's been in the den in his socks, no dog, probably while doing some video reviews, practicing that footwork. We want to know where you are right now. Tell us where you're at. All right. So who's practicing in their living room, right? Who's practicing in a parking lot? Maybe you were shopping. You're out in the parking lot. Ooh, restaurant. So type in the comments right now, get up, practice this front cross, and tell us exactly where you are practicing through it, right? So you can see on the screen here, Esteban practicing in that office in those socks. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so I'm just in the computer room there. You don't need a lot of space at all, but I've done this at work. So, I mentioned I was a physician. So in between patients, sometimes you have 2 or 3 minutes of dead time while the nurse, wheels a patient into the room, or, they're moving the cart over, or you're gathering supplies or whatever. And literally I will be looking at a course map and thinking how I'm going to do it. And I'm going to front cross between here and here. And so in my head, I will do it. And then I just step away from the cart and I'm literally doing a front cross in my white coat with my stethoscope, all my supplies. And, my nursing team is there. And, every once in a while, the new nurse as well, what is he doing? But But my old nurses know. They say, oh, he's doing agility. he's doing it right now. He's doing it at work. So we'll do it everywhere. So let's put up some of the interesting spots here.
Oh, I want to hear these. All right. Oh, bedroom. All right.
Oh, holding the laptop in her yard.
Oh, that is solid. That's solid. So we got a lot of bedrooms. We got a lot of living rooms. We got, someone's doing it in the office. Nice. Watching webinars at work. I do a lot of that. I do a lot of my agility at work. There's so much you can do in your head with your mind. We're going to talk a little bit more about that as well. That's awesome.
My dirty little secret is that I really struggle when I'm looking at something that's not oriented the same way I am. So if somebody asks me, like on a course map, like how would you do, X, Y, and Z? Like I have to turn the course map so that I'm facing the same way as the obstacles to be able to know if it's a left turn or a right turn. I have to turn the whole map when I'm driving, right? So it's always heading this way.
Right.
So yeah, I have to get out there and, turn things around and then walk it to know what I'm doing.
Yeah. I recently had to walk through a similar situation. It wasn't a front cross, but in a parking lot. Right. It was during COVID and I was at the vet. So my dog went in. So I thought, I'll do a little work in the parking lot, sitting in my car. But I couldn't get like exactly where I was supposed to orientate myself. So I got out and I'm in the parking lot of the vet's office. They probably looked out the window and thought, oh, this crazy lady.
Yeah, exactly. So this question somebody asked about the footwork. So because it's 4 steps, if you start on your left, then you're going to go left is 1, right is 2, left is 3, right, your power step is 4. So you end up on the right. So if you started on left, you end on the right. If you started with your right, you end with your left.
Oh, okay. So we have the winner. We have some more garages and yards, all good stuff, kitchen, solid. But the winner, I'm going to declare the winner. Lauren. Lauren's the winner.
I want to know how she's watching this in the shower. That is dedication.
I don't know.
Right there.
I don't know if she's like watching and then she's like, I have to shower, or if she was like getting ready to get in the shower and then she's like, I need to get in the shower to do the cross because the dog won't bother me when I'm in the shower. I'm not sure, but I will also say that I have done agility in the shower.
Oh, this is a good one too. I practiced during passing period at my high school. I was going to say, like, one thing to do to increase your the amount of practice that you have is like every time you have to like turn at a hallway or something, just turn it into a cross. So instead of just turning, right, pretend you have your dog on one side and you need him on the other, do your 4-step front cross and go.
You'll get that 90-degree front cross every turn there.
Right, exactly.
I've handled Sarah in shopping centers as we, I do some things with the children too.
This is a good one too. Oh, here's one in the ladies' room at a sporting event. Walking next to her grandma.
Nice.
All right. Good exercise. Good job, everybody. Good job.
Yeah. We'll go ahead and move on. That was great. Thank you, everyone, for sharing. Let me go into a little bit more detail how you do it mentally, because this doing it in your head thing, this visualization is such a powerful thing. You don't always have to have the dog, but you do need to think about where the dog would be, right? And that requires some mental skills. Someone had a great quote, and I'm going to share it here with you. It's visualization is the bridge between knowledge and execution. Knowledge and execution, visualization is that bridge. It was Sarah. It was Sarah. I wish I'd come up with it, but it was Sarah who said that. And, I always like to cite the famous psychology study, sports psychology study, where they took 2 groups of people who didn't play basketball, and they had one group practice shooting free throws for a week. And then they had the other group practice only in their minds. They never touched a real ball. They just practiced shooting free throws in their minds. And then they checked them later, and they both groups improved about the same. So think about that. The people who are actually practicing free throws didn't do any better than the people who imagined that they were practicing shooting free throws. Right. So that's how powerful this is. And I really took that to heart. So one of the things, running with Gitchi these last several years and being at these high level competitions and having to compete against all these border collies, Gitchi's a golden retriever. And I was that was like at the peak of my medical career. Just didn't have the time. I couldn't go to all the trials other people were going. We showed far less than similarly skilled teams. And on these international courses, I couldn't practice as much. I couldn't train as much. It would be dark when I got home. And I would do so much of that work, in between seeing patients on a lunch break, sitting in my car, looking at a course map and just rehearsing in my head over and over and over again. So let's get into that, because what I did was I taped a video for you guys showing you kind of how I do it. How I do it first slowly, and then at regular speed, and then I do it at running speed, and then I do it just like dog training, just like I'm training a dog, I train myself. Then I add a couple steps before and after the cross. So let's go ahead and play that and go through that.
Yeah, somebody else had mentioned, a couple of people mentioned that it can be difficult to do things at speed in the walkthrough. And that's true. But what we're saying is you have experience doing it without the dog in the walkthrough, but a lot of people don't take that same approach when they're practicing in their own yard. So you may not be able to always do it full speed in the trial, but you definitely have more control when you're practicing at home.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Okay. And usually I orient myself, that bar, I don't even set up a jump. I just set up the bar. That's going to be the jump. And so here it is. I do it nice and slow. 1, 2, 3, and 4. There's my power step. There's a direction change. Now I do it a little bit faster. 1, 2, 3, 4. And now I'm going to add some steps before and after. Okay, now I'm going to do it faster at speed as if I'm running. And now I'm going to do the one where I bound and I take really big steps, cover a lot of ground. Now I add a jump, and green is the dog's path. So this is 4 steps here. I'm going to create a wrap. This is 4 steps to create a 90-degree turn. And here's a 45-degree slight angle turn. And so this is how I would practice without the dog. And I remember when I was learning a different skill, maybe I want to say like 10 years ago, the threadle had really kind of just come to the United States. We were starting to see it in courses and in tryouts and things like that. And it was a maneuver I was really struggling with my border collie. She was a young border collie, and I wanted to do well with her. I practiced a ton. Like it was one spot on the course, and I did it, I think, about 20 times. And then I went and got the old dog who's like semi-retired, and I did it with her 5 or 6 times. And then I tried it with the border collie, right? That's how serious I was about doing this. But it really helped a lot, because remember, when if you're out there making mistakes, the dog's going to make mistakes too, right? So you kind of want to iron that out before you get there. So I think that's a very powerful thing.
Yeah, and so we're gonna show you the same thing with the dog added. So those same 3 front crosses, and I've lost the comment because a lot has happened since then. Everybody went out and practiced their front crosses since then. But somebody had a comment about something about every front cross is different, and how do you do like a wrap front cross, and how is that going to be different? So he showed you without the dog. This is going to show you with the dog. But the things that I want you to pay attention to, in addition to everything else now, having gone through this training, is the footwork, the 4-step footwork, and the line of that we're going to follow. So pay attention to those things as well while we watch this. All right, so there's just this is like a wrap back front cross, but still, here's step 1, dog side foot, step 2, 3, 4. And you can see that I've done 3 steps before, like as he lands, I'm on step 3. Here we have step 1, 2, 3, 4. And this one in particular, look at the distance traveled on this particular front cross, right? So that illustrates that we're going to use these 4 steps. Imagine if I'd been here, like look where he is by the time I've taken this last step. If I had done my whole front cross here, he would be passing me up and guessing about what was next. Mm-hmm. And if we look at our front cross line in this configuration, it's basically from this wing to this wing. And since these jumps are in a line, the front cross line is basically even with those jumps. You don't have to go way back here to do this front cross. And you can see that I skim along and give my dog this nice, tight, slicey line to this jump. And here again, dog side leg, step 1, 2, 3 as he's landing, 4 in the new direction, and reward. And again, we have that line here. You can see where my footfalls were. They're basically right on this line, covering ground. Okay. There we go. All right. So, okay. So there we have the video of me doing it with Venture. We have some comments.
We're just going to pull up Kathy's question real quick. Is your last step on the front cross the power step? Is that the dog side step? Yes. Your dog is on that side.
If I start on my left and I end on my right, yes, dog side.
Now the dog is on that side. See, we just did it in our heads.
Exactly, we did.
Confirm. Right, we literally did it in our heads.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, very good.
Yep.
Very
is there
good.
anything else here that we needed to?
No, I think you can.
Okay, awesome. Okay, and if you have more questions about the front cross, there's more details on our website as well. But these were kind of some big tips that we know would make a big difference right away. We did have one of our VIP members sent a video to me for review, and she was doing a front cross, and she wanted to make sure she had it right before she added her dog. This was unprompted. I did not tell her to go out and work without her dog. She just, on her own, sent me a video of her doing the front cross with no dog. And I just thought that was a great recognition on her part. And we wanted to share that video with you here as well. So let's see here. All right, here we go. And so she's going to come in, and you see at first she's just walking. She's walking through the front cross, making sure that she's got that footwork down.
There she adds some speed.
She's adding more and more speed there, doing it until it feels fluid. And now she wants to walk a different path to this jump here. So again, she comes in and she does it slow at first and then adds in speed. And here she is. Here, somebody had asked about that wrap back front cross, right? How do you do it? It can have a different feel. And
a lot of people don't even realize they're doing a front cross.
Right, exactly.
They think of it as a wrap.
Yeah. And I think a lot of times what happens is people end up with their weight on the wrong foot. That's another thing I think that happens with front crosses. And so you have to figure out like which foot should have the weight, and that can trip people up as well. So I just wanted to share that because I thought that was so great that she said, and I sent her back feedback about, her position and her timing and counting out the steps of the footwork.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Without knowing anything else about her and knowing that she's just brand new in the sport, she's going to learn quickly. She's going to make rapid progress, and she's going to be very successful in the sport. All right. I think some people are asking, okay, well, how long is this going to take? Okay. You get the knowledge, you start executing, you're practicing. How long is it going to take? And the answer that, a lot of people don't like to hear is it's going to be different for everybody. It's going to depend on a lot of different factors, including your dog. But be aware that different people have different backgrounds, right? Some people come from sports backgrounds, soccer, football, basketball, gymnastics and dance. And, they're very familiar with footwork and how to slow things down and then practice them faster and add speed and to build in a very progressive way. Right. And so they have very clear expectations, and they know they're going to get there. Right. But people without that background, and I think a lot of agility people are there, that's where they really get stuck. Right. They get stuck at that third stage where they know what they need to do. They can kind of do it. It takes a lot of brain power. They just don't feel very comfortable with it. And they don't really believe that they can get there to the other side.
Right.
Right. Something's wrong with them. Something's wrong with their dog, or something's wrong with the maneuver. Right. Like, oh, well, this thing is just garbage. I can't use front crosses. And, there may be very good reasons, going back to the knowledge piece, why you're not going to use a front cross, especially in certain given situations. But those are some of the negative feelings that really come out and can frustrate you. And so just be aware that everybody is different.
Yeah. And I really like that recognition because we do need to recognize that things will come easier to some people than others, right? We can't discount that, but that does not mean that you go all the way to the conclusion of you must be an athlete to get there eventually. No, it just may take a little bit more for you, more time, more practice, more physical practice of the skill.
Yeah. And I just want to pull up a couple of questions here. And the first one here, Daniela says, I used to only do front crosses because I wasn't confident enough to take my eyes off my dog. That's so interesting. I was the exact same way. And so when as you might guess, and maybe Daniela, you had this problem too, I had a hard time transitioning to putting blind crosses into my handling because when you blind cross, you take your eyes off the dog. And it was just very uncomfortable. I had a hard time locating a moving object, right? I just wasn't used to it. It was easier for me to find obstacles that I knew weren't going to move. I just look around. Oh, okay. I reoriented myself better than when I had to go and find my dog. I can just click show here directly. Okay. Yep. And so Jennifer had a great question. In the example where jumps are on the same line, how does the dog know that you don't want them on a backside? I don't know if you can pull that up real quick.
Yeah, I can.
The one. Okay,
yeah,
so we're gonna
exactly what you're talking about.
I will give you the answer while Sarah is pulling up that video so everyone can see very clearly. That's a great question. And I think two main ways. One is going to be the verbal cue that you're giving, whether you're saying your jump or your backside cue. So for Sarah, I know that it's over and I think push. So in one, she would say push. In the other, she says over. And then I think the motion that she's creating here, you see she's heading straight for the side. But if she was coming toward the camera, if you can move the mouse, can you go back a few seconds, maybe just a little bit more? Okay, kind of right here. So if she started stepping to the wing
and saying
push, the dog would know to come around. Can you swoop with your cursor a little bit there?
Yeah, he would do like this.
That's right. And can you move yourself kind of diagonally with the cursor? Like this. You would be moving that way. But instead, she's moving that way.
And this is where, the footwork and being very efficient with my front cross is really important, because the closer I am to my dog, the less clear it is to him that I want the front versus the back. But because I'm leading him here, I'm far ahead of him and I'm driving in this direction, it makes it more clear to him because I'm driving towards this far wing, not this near wing. But if I'm even with him, he doesn't have that information. All right, so we have covered a huge amount of ground here on the front cross, but also on this bigger idea of pairing your knowledge and your execution and getting that actual practice time with and without the dog. So everybody, take a deep breath, and give yourself a moment to absorb all of that. And let me take the video away. There we go. Okay. Okay, we need knowledge. Where do we get the knowledge? Okay, well, we're at the 50-minute mark here. We're going to answer that question in the next video. We're going to get into where you go to get that knowledge and how you build up your knowledge set. And some people are going to have the knowledge and the practice. They're putting in the time. They're not making progress yet. And they feel like they're stuck still. And we're going to talk about that in the next video as well. So kind of how to build on this to get more towards mastery. So here we're taking the first step. In the next video, we're going to really talk about building on that for the ultimate goal. So if there's anything that you are struggling with, that you'll definitely want to be here for that video. For this video, number 2, we have a PDF training file that you can get. And if you have put in your email and got last week's PDF, you will automatically get this one right after we finish this presentation. If you have not yet signed up to get the PDF worksheet or the cheat sheet from this week, you can go to baddogagility.com/video2. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and put that in the comments as well here. So you can go there, and at the bottom of that page, you can put in your email address to get the PDF. There we go. All right. To get the PDF for this video, that's going to summarize a lot of what we talked about today. And it also has a link to the entire 3-tip front cross video for you guys. Now, at the beginning, I said we were going to do the giveaway of the toy package. We have a second giveaway. And for this one, you have to go to baddogagility.com/video2. You have to go to the website, not Facebook, and leave a comment there and let us know what out of today or the previous presentation. So what you have learned that has made the biggest impact for you, whether it's something specific about the front cross, whether it's hope that you're going to get through it. Just let us know your favorite part of the workshop so far. And in 24 hours, that way we'll give the people who are watching on the replay a little bit of time as well. 24 hours, we will pick a winner for the second toy prize package. Our next video in the workshop series will be Monday at 7 p.m. And so you have the weekend to go out and
practice your front crosses,
work on your front crosses,
take a shower.
Yeah, exactly. And we will see you here on Monday. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Have a great weekend, everyone.